Hello Fade enjoyers, it's Alric, your favorite coach. Today we will do something different. We will be looking in depth into Fade in a more advanced way than regular guides. We will talk about what your role is supposed to be, how to use its utility to the maximum, how to use in-game leading to win more games, how to play attack, defense and much more. That being said, I will not explain what each ability does, and I consider that you already know the basics of Fade's kit. Before we begin, I'd like to thank every single one of you for all the support that you've given to my channel. Also, I would like to thank the sponsor of this video, which is a very smart and original way to help you rank up. TipGenius is a free application that acts as your personal coach. TipGenius has gathered a group of carefully selected coaches to make short video tips which will be displayed live while you are playing the game. These tips will appear when they're relevant, so you can immediately try them out in the following rounds. The tips range from simple mechanics to full utility combos on the map that you are currently playing. Each tip will appear while you are on the pre-round, so they don't disturb your gameplay. Or you can search them manually by adding all kinds of filters in the application itself. Tactics is one of the major things in Valorant that you need to rank up, and with TipGenius now you can easily learn all the tactics you need from trusted coaches. TipGenius is a Riot approved application and fully safe to use. I'm also making my own tips on TipGenius and especially on Fade, so make sure to use the link on the description to download TipGenius for free and improve while playing. Let's start by asking ourselves, what is our role as Fade? Fade, as I like to call here, is an attacking support. That means we are using our utility to support our team to attack. If you've seen my videos in the past, you will notice that most of the plays I'm uploading are somewhat flashy plays that I do by myself. The things you don't see are the rounds that I stay back and support my team with utility, and pretty much with the support of my utility, they gain all the kills. That's the more boring, but the more important things. So your job is to clear the corners and set up the field for your team so they can push safely and clear anyone on their path. That means Fade works best on attack and on retakes. That's why clips can sometimes be misleading on how Fade is supposed to be played. That being said, it doesn't mean you can't play here for yourself as well. We will see when to do that later on. Attack is where Fade shines. The combination of your utility can clear entire sites and choke points for our allies. When attacking, you want to make sure three things happen. Number 1. You want to always go with the majority of the team. Fade as a lurker doesn't work since all the utility are supportive and they make enough noise to break the whole stealthy part of lurking. Without you as an initiator, you put your team into a great risk to get wiped before they can even touch the site. Your job is to support the duelists to get into the site safely. Secondly, when the round begins, you want to stop or punish enemies that are pushing and clear anyone holding, especially if they're having operator. There are two ways to do that depending on the situation and the area we're playing. First, you can use your Cs to trap anyone that's pushing, like this example. Also, if you are interested in buying a coaching session with me, you can add me on the Discord in the description. On other areas that you don't have direct access to throwing the Cs, you should be using your Prowler instead. The second it connects, the enemy will either shoot it or fall back. This is where you get your opening and your team can trade the Prowler or take space. That's why I always say to my team to wait for the Prowler and push after it connects. Thirdly, you want to clear the corners required for your team to push into the site. Most of the times your Haunt does the trick here. You can find creative areas to throw it, but the idea is to clear the entire site. That's why we're always throwing a Haunt on rooftops, so it's harder for enemies to flick to it, and potentially, even if they take cover, it still reaches them. After you throw your Haunt, you can follow up with the remaining Cs or Prowler if you have remaining. So, let's take this into an example. Let's say we are pushing A main with our team on Fracture. What I will do in the beginning is use my Prowler here to push away anyone holding this corner. That means that we can push this area since my Prowler cleared it. If it connects to someone, even better, since they're blinded. Right after, what I will do is clear this box since someone might be behind it with a shotgun. I will use my Cs for this. Let's say this is clear too. Next step is to clear the remaining angles, and for this I will use a topside Haunt which will reveal both the area on the left and the upper part of the site. Then I'm left with a Prowler, which I will use to find anyone that's playing on the bottom side. What's important about these steps is to contribute your utility evenly. You don't want to use your Haunt if it clears just one corner. Your Haunt is your strongest ability. If it clears multiple corners, you want to use it to see as much as possible. With the same idea, the siege, yes, it traps the enemies, but it's only good to clear one corner. So you shouldn't be only having a siege when you're about to push aside and you have no information about it, because just one corner is not enough for you to get the information that you're needing. I'll also be making like separate map guides in the future that will show how I engage each side, how I play defense on each area, my strongest tactics and this kind of stuff. So let me know in the comments which map you want to see first. So let's talk a little bit about something else that's very important before we jump into the next topic. How can you have the most impact in your team when your agent requires your teammates to follow up your utility? What you can do, for example, if you're playing a duelist, use your utility to open up sites and kill the most you can, and having a good aim backs it up. With Fade, you can do that very easily because you can't have utility that supports your aim, rather you have utility supporting your teammates. But if your teammates are not good enough, how are you going to have the most impact you can? If they're not following your utility, then you're stuck, right? So this is something that I hear a lot of times, and this is why it's very important as Fade and as an initiator pretty much to train a lot your in-game leading. What you want to do is always call to your team what you want to do, and more importantly, what you want your team to do rather. So that's something, as I said, I hear a lot of times in my coaching sessions, like, yeah, what you're saying is fine, but on low reload, people won't follow your prowlers, or they won't push when you clear the site, and then I'm stuck. Which makes sense, but then when I ask, did you tell them exactly what to do? Most of the times the answer is no. Or for example, when I spectate them in a coaching session, they're always extremely silent and not giving out callouts. So personally, for people on my level, I don't have a very good aim. What I'm good at is in-game leading and tactics. That's why initiators are pretty much my go-to role. So what you wanna do whenever you're playing Fade is take that role of giving out callouts, information, if you want not only you, but your team to perform better as well. Sometimes they won't hear you or they will pretty much be extremely toxic, then you can just mute them and play your game. But most of the times, if they follow your calls, in which is going to happen if you do it right, it's going to be very beneficial for your team. And this is how you can start ranking up by not you being at the top of the leaderboard, but your team with your help. In the case now that your allies are not following your callouts and info, then you can try other things such as lurking or playing more aggressively for yourself, but stick with them until you see that they're not hearing your callouts and they're not reacting. That's why it's very important to keep the moral up of your team, so everybody can play alongside each other and be positive and not starting to deal with everybody and then everybody's being silent and does their own things, because then you are the one that's being useless, since no one is using your utility. So let's hop into defense. Sometimes defense can seem very hard to people because Fade, unlike other initiators, doesn't have any flashes, so they don't know how to kill the enemies or stop them from pushing entirely. For me, there are three main things that you want to focus when defending. Number one is getting the early info. Every utility that Fade has can give out information. And this is where people fall into traps very early in the game, because whenever they're trying to get that information, they're doing it wrong. Firstly, we never want to throw our hunt for early information unless a teammate likes pushing, so we want to have the maximum information we can. But if you're practically just on one choke point, you don't want to give out your hunt. Your hunt is your strongest ability, and you can gain information with your prowlers. And it doesn't make any difference if you gain the information with your prowler and your hunt. The difference is what you're going to have after. The second mistake that people do is after they're getting that first info, let's say my prowler connects here, they start throwing every single utility to the enemies before they even take a step. If you take one thing out of this video, for me it would be like to stop using utility that can't benefit you or a teammate. If you just throw a flash to somebody and nobody pushes him and nobody takes any space anywhere, then that utility is a useless utility because it doesn't practically change anything. The same idea applies here. If I'm using one prowler to gain the info and then I'm starting to throw Hunt, Seize, the other prowler, all you manage to do is pretty much delay your opponents by some very insignificant seconds, and then in the end you're not gonna have anything to actually kill them when they're pushing. Instead, much better to call out that somebody's in your position and after the first prowler, try to play some kind of plan. So, as we said, number one is getting early info. After you get that info that somebody's indeed in your site, what you wanna do most of the time is fall back and you try to kill the enemies when they're pushing. The easiest way to play Fade after that is to utilize the enemy smokes or your ally smoke. And we do this by the hunt we saved earlier. So let's say we're playing Bind, what I'm gonna do is fall back here, and what I'm gonna do is be very, very patient, and I'm gonna have already seen where the enemy smokes, and I'm going to play around the area that he smokes. If they throw it here, for example, what I try to do is find a good angle for my hunt that it will be hard for the enemies to flee to, because it's going to be on a rooftop most of the times, and when they are pushing, I'm going to throw my hunt to try to reveal them through the smoke and spray them. What you can do also is utilize your Seize at the same time. So let's say people are pushing, I'm throwing my Seize, throwing my hunt, and then I can spray them very easily because they're stuck. Also, you can utilize your ally smokes. So let's say, for example, same scenario, I'm getting my prowler info here. What I'm gonna do sometimes is fall back to hookah and ask for a fast smoke on short from a teammate. After that, what I can do is whenever I hear them that they're taking some steps, I can throw my CC here, and then I can throw my horn on the top of the rooftop and spam the revealed enemy. So this pretty much secures you 1 or 2 kills pretty much every round if you do it the right way. Something that's important is to not keep using the same tactic over and over and over and over again. What you wanna do is change different sides, different horns, different ways to play your defense, but this is like the majority. Now that's step 2, right? Step 1 was getting the info, step 2 was falling back, playing some kind of trap. Step 3 is to prepare for a retake with our remaining utility and our team. Even one prowler most of the time is going to do the job, because if you took 1 or 2 kills, then it's a 5 versus 3. So the most efficient way to do this is just wait back after they plant and wait for your horn cooldown to get the maximum value. That's why it's very important again to tell your team to wait until the horns cool down, unless you have something else that you can do immediately. Now, if enemies don't push your side, I always suggest you that you group with your teammates for a retake instead of trying to flank, because flank is pretty much the same as lurk, and as we said on attack, number 1 rule is to stick with the majority of the team and support them to take the space. Whenever the enemies are planting, you become the attackers, the enemies become the defenders. So whenever you're playing retake, we follow the same rules as attack. Now lastly, there is one more thing I want to talk about, that sometimes key is to think and not to autopilot. What I'm showing you are some ideas that you can do. You don't want to keep repeating the same stuff that you're doing over and over again. You never want to be predictable, and you don't want the enemies to know how you're going to react to what they're gonna do. And at the same time, you want to see what their patterns are and try to abuse them. For example, if you keep throwing the same horn here, what they're gonna do is be ready for it, and whenever you throw it, they're gonna just destroy it. In the other part, if you see that the enemy Jet, for example, is smoke dashing into this area all the time, then have your prowler out ready, play this position, and whenever she smoke dashes in, you can just insta-kill her. So this is a very important skill to have, analyzing your enemies, and can be the key like to winning many rounds a lot of time. If you just notice their patterns and try to think of a plan that you can gain a kill or 2 out of them. And at the same time, you don't want the enemies to read you instead. For example, let's say you keep throwing the same Cs over and over again here. When you are playing attack, if the enemies notice this for many rounds, they're not gonna push it anymore. So you don't want to keep repeating it. Instead, what you can do is notice if they're playing hookah, for example, and throw it on hookah the next round. So what we talked about today are more theoretical stuff. On the next guides, we're going to start talking a little bit about more practical stuff, about tactics, about each area of each map, and I'm gonna show you everything that I do in my games, so you can take some examples and apply it in your own games. This is the theory in which you can use to create your own strategies and try to rank up using Fade. See you the next time.